Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bold Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. With me is Steve Mark and Tim Vergeese. I'm Zack Carpenter. Uh, One of the most exciting games, maybe that will regular season games that we'll ever cover at Nebraska. I know that's the excitement of this game is something that we barely even have to really talk about because it's all anyone's talking about. Everyone knows. Um, the stakes of this game with the national perception, it's a national spotlight NBC game, Big Ten Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. Memorial Stadium. It's being hyped and justifiably so as the biggest regular season game in Lincoln since Miami in 2014. Um, there's you and Steve, you and Tim already broke down this matchup very thoroughly on the Nebraska Football Show. I'd encourage you guys out there to go and check that out on our YouTube channel or at Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can listen to it. They did a great job breaking down the matchup and what we're gonna see, and exciting storylines galore, man. What's if there's one thing you want like to open up the discussion about it, what would you break it down?
I mean, for me, there's so much. Like, do you go the head coaching route with like Deion Sanders versus Matt Rhule and the battle of the cultures, which I thought Matt Rhule in his Monday press conference fielded questions about that very well. He made sure not to stoke any fires and make a big deal about it. Leave that up to the fan bases to do. So he did a good job with not getting any sound bites out there. But for me, it's just Nebraska's defense versus Colorado's offense, led by Shadur Sanders. I mean, that's my top thing that I'm interested in because Colorado and Shadur, their passing attack is so fun to watch. I mean, just for a football fan watching those guys toss the rock around, I mean, that's just, some good old fashioned football fun there. And then on the other side, Nebraska's defense is just filled with veteran playmakers at all three levels. So watching those two units go at it is what I'm most excited for. I mean, it's just on top of the electricity that's going to be flowing through Lincoln, Nebraska. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be extremely loud. I think Nebraska's fan base is going to play a role in this one. And we can get into that later with my predictions. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Colorado's offense, that Shadur Sanders led passing attack versus Nebraska's defense, and John Butler is going to be a big game for him and his defensive backs at Nebraska.
Yeah, there's been this. I mean, we've been talking about this game. Everybody's been talking about this game since March,
Mm-hmm.
April. I mean, I think it was announced as the Saturday night game back in the spring. Was it in the spring, I believe, or maybe
Yeah,
May? I guess May is technically spring. But we've been talking about it for so long that's like, oh wow, it's Wednesday, Thursday. Like it's already,
it's
it's
coming
gonna be
up.
here. It's by the time that this is published, it's gonna be about like a little over 48 hours until kickoff of that game. It's like, oh well, I guess we're prepared. I hope both teams are prepared because I it with the perception of this game and the spotlight that's going to be on it. Like I said, you just want it to be everything it's hyped up to be. You don't want it to be like last year's Colorado Nebraska game where, um, you know what? No, I'm not even gonna bring it. I'm not even gonna bring last year's game up. Not because, just because I thought it was kind of an ugly game all around. Um, so we're looking now at a game that's loaded with these storylines and the perception. And Tim, I wanted to bring you in here for sort of a recruiting program, holistic look at it because you and Greg Smith at Rivals did a fact or fiction that went up today, and the topic was, can the Colorado game jumpstart the Matt Rhule era in Lincoln? So what are your thoughts on that? I guess I'll just stop talking and tee you up.
Yeah, it's with Nebraska. I think here you just have an opportunity, win or lose. I think the way I prefaced it was, and I've prefaced it all summer, is as long as Nebraska plays competitive football, I think the environment that's going to be on display Saturday night, the amount of recruits coming in, Dawson Merritt, the Alabama four-star linebacker commit, four-star athlete Michael Terry is playing to come. Nebraska's trying to swing momentum away from Texas as Texas continues to trend there. Cortez Mills, the Oklahoma four-star wide receiver commit. As we're speaking, this morning I got a text. Oklahoma is actually urging him to cancel that visit. As of now, He's still planning on making it in. We'll see if he actually does come through, but he's planning to be in town. The number two player in the 2026 class, five-star offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell will be in town. Four-star athlete Brandon Arrington will be in town. These are guys that have offers from all over the country. The Nebraska's battled for that a strong performance on Saturday. Nebraska could regain some momentum there, and more than anything, too, you see just from week one what Dylan Raiola did offensively caught the eyes of some 25 and 2026 pass catchers. And another strong performance where we're expecting millions and millions of viewers on TV beyond the 90 plus thousand expected in the stadium. It could just have a massive impact on what Nebraska can do on the recruiting trail, the type of tools I guess they'll have to be able to just show on the recruiting trail. Like, hey, you come here, you get to catch passes from this quarterback, you get to play in this type of environment week in and week out. You get this type of support from the fan base. There's just a really big opportunity here, I think, win or lose on the recruiting trail, just as long as Nebraska plays competitive football. And competitive football just looks like, again, just competent offense relative to what the defense showed last year.
Yeah, Tim, are you breaking news there on the Oklahoma trying to get Cortez Mills to not come visit?
A little bit, a little bit. We kind of figured, as soon as we kind of announced that he was coming, a couple of different sites kind of got the news at the same time, and so as soon as that came out and became public, Oklahoma got a little pissed off, and they've been urging him to cancel all week, and it sounds like as of Wednesday morning, they've kind of been able to be like, okay, don't make that visit, but again, that doesn't mean he's not going to make it in. It's just as of right now, Oklahoma's like, don't make that visit, and because they have a very strict no visit policy.
Well, regardless, that's a good sign. Then I think if you're Nebraska, like the team that he's committed to, like if they weren't worried about it, feel like just generally speaking, if they weren't worried about it, they'd be like, oh yeah, go take your visit. But hey, who knows with Cortez Mills? I mean, that's the thing is you knew that was going to be coming with the Dylan Raiola effect that we keep talking about, the phrase I've said at least ad nauseum. Um, that's one of the first recruiting effects we see now that the season started. It's like, oh, this kid can play. Now the best offensive talent in the country wants to come at least see him play and see what this place is all about. And if nothing else, I guess they're gonna see just an awesome get a free ticket for a front row seat to the game. But and you talk about the recruiting momentum this could build, and obviously goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. As long as they were to carry the momentum going forward through the rest of the regular season, have a big successful year, could start to see things shift a little bit. So, Steve, without further ado, going to go into bold predictions, one apiece as always, and then final score prediction and bring it around the merry-go-round here. Bold prediction, Steve, what do we got?
Yeah, so a lot of eyes are going to be on Nebraska's pass defense and then Colorado's passing offense, which, I kind of opened up this show with, and rightly so. It's going to be a fun battle to watch. But also along the same lines, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the line of scrimmage when Colorado has the football. Because, look, I mean, when Colorado played North Dakota State in their season opener last Thursday, Colorado only rushed for 59 yards, and that's 2.6 yards per carry. So they really looked like a one-dimensional offense. And now I'm sure they were holding some things back offensively because they didn't want to put it on tape, exactly like Nebraska did on both sides of the ball in their season opener in that 40-7 win over UTEP. But I'm sure that Colorado is going to want to show some semblance of, hey, we want to run the football. So when they do, I'm really going to be kind of keeping my eyes on that Colorado offensive line, that retooled offensive line. And especially, I think a matchup that Nebraska is really going to have success with is Nash Hutmaker against against Colorado starting center Hank Zaleskas. Sorry, Hank, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but Zank Zelenkas. I really think that that's a matchup that Nash Hutmacher is really going to take advantage of. Nash is a lot bigger and stronger, in my opinion, than Hank is at 6'3" and 285 pounds. And I think Hank's like a third-year player, and he played in 11 games last year, so he's a returning Buffalo, which aren't a lot of those. He started 2 games at center for them, I think. So he has a little bit of experience, but not a ton. And I think Nash Hutmaker is really going to just be an issue for Colorado's offense in the interior of that offensive line. And the thing with that is
Did you see the graphic that went out with the polar bear
yes,
stomping
yeah.
the buffalo, and then some people
I'm sure
didn't
a
get
lot
it. I'm
of
like, that was pretty
Colorado fans
cool.
are wondering what the heck is going
Yeah,
on with the
like
polar
when
bear
did
because
it?
they don't know Nash's nickname, and that's totally fine. But I thought that was kind of funny because Colorado fans might not have even understood the meme. But anyway, uh, yeah, I just think, you know, Nash is going to be such a presence in this game, I think. And, you know, especially when Colorado is going to want to establish a run game, I don't think they're really going to do it with Nash out there. So my bold prediction for this one is Nash Hutmaker is going to have 3 tackles for loss. 2 of them are going to be sacks. So that's what I'm saying. And if Colorado chooses, which could be wisely, chooses to double team Nash, I mean, that's just good for everybody else, right? That creates one-on-one situations outside on the edges against those first year Colorado offensive tackles too. So I'm looking for Nash Hutmaker to have a big presence in this game against the run and especially against the pass to helping collapse that pocket because you don't want Shedeur Sanders running around and buying time for his excellent receivers to just run around and get past Nebraska's DBs. If that's what he did last year, and Shedeur really stung Nebraska's defense when he was able to get out of the pocket and just kind of buy some time. And you know, if you ever play football, flag football, anything like that, when you have to cover somebody for more than 3 seconds, I mean, it's bad news. That's just a very difficult job to do. So Nash Hutmaker, I think he's going to have a great game. I think he's going to have 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks.
I believe that would be setting his career single game high for TFLs. He's 2.5 twice last year, and 2.5 sacks last year. So he'd be coming close to that too. I'm actually I only checked 2023 because I didn't think that I thought that looking at 2023 there wouldn't be any danger of saying that if I was just looking at one season.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
I was correct. So
and another thing that I probably should have said the first time is, you know, I really kind of liked how Tony White and his defensive assistants had the rotations going against UTEP because we were both on the field on last Saturday. It was so hot. It was way like it was like a high of 85 in Lincoln, but on the field on the turf at Memorial Stadium, it was like well over 100 degrees. It was brutal down there. But Nash Hutmacher, he only played 15 snaps against the Miners. A
I
lot
didn't
of
even
the
notice that.
Yeah, a lot of the core guys on defense were hardly out there. I mean, it was like an NFL preseason game where they played most of the first half and then maybe a second, and then maybe another series in the second half. But you know, Ty Robinson only played 21 snaps. MJ Sherman, starting Jack linebacker, 19 snaps. Makai Bear, 17 snaps. He's doing excellent at his inside linebacker position. Cam Lenhart, 14 snaps. Raleigh Van Poppel, 9 snaps. James Williams, 6 snaps. These guys hardly played. They're going to be so fresh. They're going to be ready to go. And I just think that the way Tony White handled that season opener against an opponent that everybody knew they were going to win was really impressive. And I thought they did right by those guys of keeping them fresh and having them play a little bit out there, but not all 4 quarters.
And then if I'm looking at it correctly, between 55 and around 60 degrees by the time
Oh yeah, it's
or
going to be a great day in Lincoln. Yeah.
65 by the time they kick off under uh the sun will
Yeah.
just about be going down by the time they kick off.
Yeah.
It'll be completely down by halftime. So it's not like I
Gonna
don't
gonna have a little chill in the air in the fourth
yeah.
quarter in Lincoln, Nebraska with some football. It's gonna be excellent.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. It's almost I think that the snap count for some of those guys kind of speaks to the confidence that Nebraska staff had
Oh,
going into that
depth.
UTEP
Yeah.
game where it's like we know that if we get our business done, we don't turn it over 100 times, that should be able to use this just as the classic college football tune-up game. I know several programs across the country had difficulties with that. Um, in the week one opener, college football week one is always very strange, and Nebraska was able to avoid all that and stay fresh for this for this showdown, man. That's like you say, all those skill players is gonna be fun. Tim,
Mm-hmm.
without further ado, you got any skill position bold predictions related to what am I trying to say? Skill position related bold predictions. What do you got?
Somewhat. Okay, so my bold prediction here, I think Nebraska finds a way to score on special
Bold. That's
teams,
bold. Oh, okay.
whether
Special teams.
on special teams, whether that's a kick return, whether that's a punt return, whether that's a safety, blocked punt. I think Nebraska finds a way to score. I think an easy one to look at, Ja'Cory Barney called a shot after the spring game. When he got hawked down by Tristan Alvano on that kickoff return that could have been a touchdown in the spring game. He said after the game, he was like, or after the game, he was like, no one's going to be laughing when I bring one back on Colorado. So, and he came close against UTEP a couple of times where it's like, hey, you keep running. He's kind of a guy that Matt Rhule said like can't really turn it off. Like he's always going full speed. And you kind of see that in the way he runs. As soon as he gets to top gear, it's kind of hard to bring him down. Like even guys when they were tackling him, it's kind of like a car accident. Like he just kind of slides for a bit just because of how fast he's moving.
Yeah, he
So
took that
I
pop
think
pass too, right? In the first quarter, I
yeah.
think it was. He just like, oh, all right, but he's not he's going as hard as possible for as long as possible, and then he's
As long as possible.
going down
So
hard.
I'm curious to see kind of, I think Nebraska's going to have some success there. Also helps on Colorado's end. They had one special team assistant coach, and he left a couple of weeks before the season. So I have no idea who's leading that unit anymore. I have no idea how, they weren't really challenged on special teams against North Dakota State. So I'm interested to see, kind of how Nebraska matches up because Nebraska likes to exploit that, not exploit that, but they want special teams to be a weapon now. And we've seen, just from one game this season, we've seen considerable improvement from last season to this season with that unit as a whole.
So you think Ja'Cory Barney's house and one kick return or punt return? Did you
I
say
think
kick
that's
return?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance, but I also think again, like I'm giving the caveat of a special team score, like a safety like they had last week. I don't like, if Colorado at any point gets pinned with their back to the end zone, I trust Nebraska's front to be able to get home as well. And Shador is a pocket manipulator, but again, he's kind of got that tendency to stick in there and take some hits. Which you can't really do again with your back to the end zone. So if Nebraska does get him in that position, I think they'll have their ears pinned back looking for a sack.
Tim Verghese going with a special teams related bold prediction, which is tradition, as is tradition around here, and then it never happens. But last week, to your point, it looked very different as far as what Nebraska was trying to do. I think Elliott Brown almost blocked. It looked like he got a hand on it. He was that
He got
close to
close a
blocking
couple
one.
times.
Yeah.
I think that's what I told. I leaned over to Steve in the press box on that second one where he did look like he got a hand. I was like, I think Elliott comes down with one this year.
So, but
Not this
not
game.
this
I don't
game.
think this game, but I think he comes down with one this year. I don't know how much. I will say this: I don't know how much punting Colorado is going to do in this game. I do think they're going to be. It's going to be a little bit of a trading scores back and forth, where both teams are kind of risking it, going for it on fourth down, and Colorado kind of does the same.
Yeah, and that
You
leads.
bringing up the sorry, Zach. You bring Tim bringing up special teams reminds me of during Colorado's season opener against North Dakota State. They had one field goal make. Alejandro Mata, he's their field goal kicker. He made a 27-yarder in the first half, I believe. I remember it just like coming off his foot so low. It reminded me of was it the Maryland game last year where Nebraska had that punt game or they blocked a field goal and then ran it back, and Quentin Newsom and Tommy Hill were high fiving.
Purdue.
Purdue,
Yep.
yeah. It reminded me of that kind of kick. It was just like it came off the foot so low, and was almost. And it looked like to me, like on the broadcast, on ESPN's broadcast, that it was going to like be blocked, but it didn't. So maybe that's something to look. Maybe Tim, maybe you're on to something there. I don't know.
So that's if it is that if there's a block or I mean we're talking field goal kickers and that um and the back and forth scoring, maybe not a ton of punting in this game, uh leads into my bold prediction because mine's related to the final score. And then we'll bring it around for you guys. My final score again, Nebraska is -7.5 favorite right now, recording at 12:30 on PM on Wednesday, over under 58.5. And I have Nebraska winning 31-27. I first off that I think Colorado is going to be able to move the ball. I don't know if you're Nebraska, you're going to be so focused on limiting explosives, especially after last year, especially considering all of that firepower, that weaponry that they have on that side of the ball. Um, if you can limit the big explosives to three or less, I think um, right in that range. Let's just throw an arbitrary number out there, I guess. But I think if you're limiting them to somewhere in that range, I think you're going to be sitting in okay position. but for the most part, I think they'll limit those. This Nebraska defense will limit those explosives and going to force Colorado to sort of matriculate the ball down the field, and this becomes a red zone game. Okay, can this Husker defense force field goals or force Colorado into a fourth down attempt that they don't convert? Can they get a turnover in the red zone? I saw a random stat just before hopping on to record. I wrote down that Nebraska has 0 interceptions in the red zone since the 2022 season and that's over a span of 65 pass attempts. And in that span, they've allowed 18 passing touchdowns and no interceptions, 18 passing touchdowns allowed over that 65 pass attempt span. I know it's weird stat, it's a convoluted, wordy stat, but it's tied worse than FBS. And um, the stat is pretty much representative of they don't turn you over in the red zone. They didn't turn teams over last year very often, but we saw last week that they finally started implementing or getting those takeaways, forcing those takeaways that Rhule and Tony White have been harping on all offseason over and over to the point where it's like almost overkill. It's like, all right, like you focus too much on those, maybe it becomes detrimental, but it wasn't last week. And I have for a very specific bold prediction, I have Tommy Hill again. I said it last week that he's going to get a pick six. I'm just going interception for this game. Just an interception for Tommy Hill in the red zone. I don't know what possession it comes on, but um, I think that he's going to grab one in the red zone because I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be afraid at all to challenge Tommy Hill. I don't think Dylan Raiola is going to be afraid to challenge Travis Hunter. I think you guys talked about it on your show. Um, Raiola's not gonna challenge Travis Hunter actively. He's not gonna do it on purpose just to like say, hey, I'm the 5 star or anything like that. Like, but if the read's there, if the progression's there, and he has a shot, I don't think either quarterback is going to be afraid in this game. That's what another thing that makes this so exciting. Shador's the veteran, future likely top 5, top 10 pick potentially, and Raiola's second career start, true freshman. I think both of them are going to be very composed and make a ton of plays in this game when it's needed when it's necessary for Raiola. And um, I think he winds up making one more play, a couple more plays than Shador going against, like you said, Steve, that Nebraska pass rush. So I have 31-27. And a gut feeling that 2 weeks ago hit was the team with the ball. They say the team with the ball last is going to win this game. You know, that cliche. I think the team with the ball second to last is going to win this game. And there's no evidence for that. It's just a stupid gut feeling prediction from my end. So that's what I got. Got them going just under that point total at 58 total, and Nebraska not cover as they did cover last week. Steve, what do you got for a final score?
Yeah, I'm going Nebraska 34, Colorado 27. I just think it's going to be a really difficult environment for the Buffs to leave Lincoln with a win. I think the Memorial Stadium's crowd is going to really play a role here. It's going to be extremely loud in there. I think that's going to cause one or two false starts from Colorado's offensive line or somebody from Colorado when they're out there. I just think the crowd is going to have a real effect in this one. And just Dylan Raiola looks so comfortable last week that I think it's going to transition into this week. And all those plays that they held in fall camp for this moment for Saturday's game that they didn't show last week against UTEP, those are going to come out right now. And I just think it's going to go well. I think it's a very difficult environment for Colorado to win in. I think Nebraska gets out of there with a 34-27 win.
Yeah,
Tim,
I'm
what
in
do
the
we
same.
got?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. 35-27, pretty similar
We
to
all have
Steve. I just have a
27 as the
touchdown
losing
instead of two
score.
field goals.
27.
35-27. But yes, I have 5 touchdowns instead of 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals. One that's just part of we just haven't seen it from the kicking game just yet with Alvano, but also on Nebraska's end. I think I agree with generally everything Steve said. I think the difference here, this is going to be a closer game than maybe some expect. I don't know. I mean, again, I've seen some on both sides kind of run away with their predictions and expectations for this game on what their team's going to do the other. But I really think this is going to be a close contest. You know, Travis and Shador and that wide receiver room at Colorado can keep them in most any game, including this one. I think the difference here is Nebraska's got the home field advantage, and it's a real deal home field advantage.
Yeah, and the 27 for me was going back to the field goals. I think if they stand tall in the red zone and um, force Colorado and to settle for a couple field goals instead of getting another touchdown or converting two touchdowns, I think those are where just the way I'm projecting it out or where the margins come because yeah, I think I could see this being a close game. Nebraska win, close game, Colorado win. Um, I could see Nebraska pulling away in the fourth quarter. I just don't because of that environment, because of the matchup, the way everything's set up right now. I don't see a Colorado blowout or cruising to a win like they did last year. But they certainly could come into Lincoln and steal this one. Um, but I just don't foresee that happening. And Tim and I am going against our preseason predictions for any games were played. I had Nebraska winning this game all the way up until I put the prediction on paper, and then now I'm switching back to what I was thinking about for all that time. So again, 6:30 p.m. on Saturday night on NBC. It's going to be a really fun time. We'll be there providing coverage on the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, InsideNebraska.com. Encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, get all these videos dropped directly into your feed, and subscribe to the InsideNebraska.com website. There we'll have a lot more coverage the next couple of days and after the game. So for Steve Marek and Tim Vergeese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.